Hello and welcome back to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. Today's video going to be a post-match review of the Celtic 3-3 rather disappointing draw last night against Dundee. Celtic looked rather tired. Some of the players I think have had one game too many. That was their 8th game in 23 days, a period over which we've had 5 wins, 2 draws and 1 defeat. A period that started with a 0-0 draw at Tannadice across the road in Dundee, and it ended with a 3-3 draw against Dundee, the other side of the road. I think it was a game where, as I said, I think Celtic looked rather tired. It's always difficult over that period, balancing out player fatigue, physically and mentally, also keeping the players coming in off the bench or as replacements match fit physically and mentally. And I think we've done a pretty good job of balancing that out. But I think one or two players such as Trusty, Schmeichel, McGregor, Carter Vickers looked like they'd maybe had one game or so too many in quick succession. Celtic started off the game, I thought, very well. Obviously, lovely ball by Greg Taylor, finding Luke McCowan free at the back post. Brilliant header back across the goal by Luke McCowan. And after 4 or 5 minutes, Celtic were 1-0 up. Celtic really should have added to their lead. Adam Ida only really had to touch the ball from about 4 or 5 yards. Brilliant ball across the box. However, he completely missed the ball, and that chance was lost. And shortly after, Paolo Bernardo headed the ball onto, then over the bar from about 8-9 yards out. Again, anywhere on the goal, and that was almost certainly going to beat Carson in the Dundee goal. However, Bernardo managed to knock the ball onto, then over the bar. Celtic missed a few other chances. Prior to that point, did look like we were going to go into half-time 1-0 up. However, Celtic up for a corner. Dundee managed to clear the ball. Some rather poor defensive work by Luke McCowan on the edge of the box allowed Dundee to get the ball clear into space in just outside the box in the middle. Some very poor defensive work, tracking back by Bernardo and McGregor. Rather poor attempt by McGregor to intercept a ball, allowed Dundee to break quickly over the halfway line. Really, the only player who managed to get back was Alistair Johnston. The midfielders slow getting back, the other defenders slow getting back, and nice finish by the Dundee forward, put them 1-1, and 1-1 at half-time. Celtic started the second half nice and brightly. Lovely ball by Alistair Johnston out to Kyogo. Brilliant ball across the box by Kyogo, going right across the 6-yard box. The Dundee defence and goalkeeper could only deflect the ball into the air. Nice back post header by Yang, put Celtic 2-1 up. Yang's second goal for Celtic, both of which have been headers. Thought Celtic would then push on and secure the game. However, some terrible defending by Greg Taylor allowed the ball to get in behind him. He really should have cleared that ball. That then drew Austin Trusty across. He was out-muscled by Simon Murray, who then got in behind with the help of the right-sided attacking player from Dundee. Very poor tracking back by the midfielders, especially Callum McGregor. Greg Taylor also not tracking back to fill in that space where Trusty had gone to try and cover for Taylor's mistake. Slightly unluckily, Carter Vickers trying to block the ball, hit off his other leg, which deflected the ball towards the goal. Kasper Schmeichel had made his dive a wee bit early and unfortunately was unable to react to the deflection, and 2-2. Slightly odd incident just before the Dundee third goal. Donnelly, the Dundee centre-back, stamping on Austin Trusty's toe in the box. Not sure how sore that was, but certainly known from personal experience, having your toes stamped on is rather sore. Trusty went down. Don Robertson seemed to completely ignore it. Dundee then pumped the cross in. Kasper Schmeichel rather caught in no man's land. Our central marking players not really marking anybody, nor were they clearing a space for Schmeichel to get out to catch or punch the ball. Back post, Donnelly had nice grip of Trusty's shirt at the front, arm round his side, which which didn't allow Trusty to be able to get his full jump. He was being held down and twisted by Donnelly's grip on his shirt and Donnelly's arm round his side. Donnelly headed the ball towards the goal, and as Kasper Schmeichel rather out of position in no man's land, and we're 3-2 down. Celtic then, to be fair to them, did look rather bright, trying to get themselves back into the game. I honestly thought that we were going to get an equaliser, and was quite confident that we did so. I do know quite a lot of the Celtic fan sites were rather pessimistic and fatalistic and didn't think Celtic were ever going to get back into the game. I think there's a lot of overreaction in a lot of the Celtic fan sites. I think it was a battling draw, and I think it was a good factor that we got back into the game to draw the game. Nicholas Kuhn cutting in towards the box, nice powerful shot that was goal bound, and Silla, the Dundee player, got his arm up to block it, clear penalty, no debate with that, and Arnie Engels very calmly, very expertly smashed the penalty past the goalkeeper, an unsavable penalty, 3-3, no time for either team to get a winning goal, and so the game ended 3-3. Celtic go 16 points clear. Our big rivals, if they win tonight, can cut that to 13. But either way, we've got a nice big lead going into the final part of the season. The games to go are going down and down. Our lead remains very good. Even at 13 points, that's still a remarkably big lead at this point of the season. And so I think a few days of rest and recuperation, and I think Celtic will be fine, get back on track against Kilmarnock, and then we've got the two final games in the Champions League qualifiers, along with a couple more league matches by the end of the January month. Some thoughts about Brendan Rodgers' press conference. I thought it was very, very unfair to single out Austin Trusty as the one and only player to blame for a poor defensive performance. I think Kasper Schmeichel was off the pace. Cal McGregor was off the pace. Bernardo McCowan got back very poorly. Taylor, defensively, very poor. Cameron Carter-Vickers, Trusty both looked rather tired. They weren't linking up as well as they usually do, nor was Taylor, Trusty linking up as well as they usually do. I think it was a collectively poor defensive performance. I think it was very unfair for Rodgers to single out Trusty as being the only player to blame. Also, no real criticism of Adam Eder for missing chances and playing poorly. No real criticism at all of Paulo Bernardo's missing a couple of easy chances and being very ineffectual in all aspects of midfield. And I do think it's also rather poor of a manager of any sort, be it a football manager or a manager in normal day-to-day life, to single out a single player, a single employee in public. I think those kind of things are best done in the dressing room and on the training pitch. I think it's unfair to pick on Trusty. Do fear that this will mean that Liam Scales will be back in the game, back in the team for the game against Kilmarnock. He's not well suited to playing against Kilmarnock. We've had a couple of games against Kilmarnock where he was rather at fault, remembering the 2-1 loss, which was more due to Nat Phillips in the middle of the box, but Scales and Taylor got completely overrun on the left side of defence. Scales not good against rough, tough, big centre forwards, of which Kilmarnock have a couple, nor is he very good for players with pace coming in off the wing. And again, Kilmarnock have players with those skills, and so my personal feeling is a couple of days of rest, couple of days of training, couple of days of confidence building, and we keep Trusty and Carter-Vickers in the middle. Wouldn't be averse to Liam Scales coming in at left back. Might give us a bit more defensive solidity. Might lose a wee bit of Taylor's ability moving forward. But I think being tighter defensively, also having that bit more height in the box, and a bit of Trusty and Scales cross-covering each other, as both of them do play centre-back and both play left-back. I think that might be an option, although I doubt Rodgers will go for that, and I think he'll simply swap in Scales and leave out Trusty. And I think in the long term, that's a poor idea. I think Trusty's better in all ways than Scales, better in the air, faster, better recovery time, and much better as a passer. But we'll see what Rodgers does against Kilmarnock. Now, moving into the stats for the game, Celtic massively on top in terms of possession, and so probably should have got much more in terms of shots on goal, chances, touches in the box, and corners than they did. So stats were possession was 79-21 to Celtic, shots were only 12 Celtic, 10 Dundee, 5 on targets by Celtic, 4 by Dundee, 6 off targets by Dundee, 5 off targets by Celtic. Celtic had 2 shots blocked, Dundee had no shots blocked, 2 saves for both goalkeepers. Touched in the box, 31 to Celtic, 15 to Dundee, and corners 2 for Dundee, 4 for Celtic. And so I think you can see from touches in the box, shots, and corners, Celtic really weren't using their massive possession to their benefit. And also you can see that Dundee had 4 shots on goal, 3 going in. Celtic had 5 shots with 3 going in, so both of those are very good conversion rates. But I think Celtic, with all that possession, I think Celtic, as poor as they were defensively, also were poor in midfield and up front. Looking at the player ratings I've given Kasper Schmeichel 6. I thought he was partly at fault for the second goal, partly at fault for the third goal, and I think it was a poor team defensive and midfield effort for all 3 goals. Alistair Johnston I've given 7 and man of the match. I think he was the only Celtic defender that comes out with any credit. Also thought he pushed forward into midfield and the final third well. A couple of nice crosses, nice passes. Was integral to the setup of the second goal. So 7 for him and man of the match. 6.5 for Carter Vickers. Made a few errors in defence. Wasn't his usual good self at covering to help out Trusty and Johnson and Taylor. Couple of times he also got out-muscled and outfought by Simon Murray. Austin Trusty I've given 6. I thought in the first half Trusty's defence was fine. I thought his distribution was good as well. He pushed forward to support Greg Taylor. A few nice passes to both wings from Austin Trusty, which was good. However, second half clearly was out-muscled by Simon Murray out wide on the left when he was covering in behind for Taylor's mistake. And at the corner, he did seem to get himself out-muscled, out-jumped by Donnelly, the Dundee centre-back. He was being held and pulled and twisted. However, Trusty probably should have been able to fight that off and get a proper head and challenge to clear that ball. Given 6.5 for Greg Taylor. I thought in an attacking sense he was good. Great in the midfield, great in the attacking zone. Lovely cross for the first goal. However, his defensive work I thought was poor throughout the whole game. Dundee forever getting in behind him, which was drawing Trusty across on a regular basis. Taylor very poor at tracking back for the first goal and the second goal. So giving him 6.5. 6 for Callum McGregor. Poor performance by Callum McGregor. Didn't track back to help out defence. Didn't link up play very well. Didn't win the ball back. He had an easy chance to intercept the Dundee ball when they were just crossing the halfway line. He was poor getting back for that goal, poor getting back for the second goal, and wasn't really a threat in terms of goal creation or shooting for goal himself. So 6 for him. 6.5 for Luke McCown. Started the game nicely, scored a super goal in the first few minutes. However, it seemed to me he kind of drifted out as the half went on. He was, I thought, at fault for not stopping Dundee getting the ball out of their own box that led up to the first goal. Tracked back very poorly. to help out defence and help out in midfield. He was very late getting back to the box. And so 6.5 for him. And I say in the second half, I hardly saw him before he got taken off. 5 for Paulo Bernardo, very poor performance. Missed an easy header midway through the first half. Missed another chance in the first half. Missed another chance in the second half. Poor tracking back, poor tackling, very little creation from Paulo Bernardo. So 5 from him, very poor performance. 6.5 for Yang, scored a goal, so good marks for that. Lots of energy up and down the wing, did try his absolute hardest, however, lost possession rather a lot. His crosses and final passes rather poor. Quite often, when he did seem to have just half a yard to beat the Dundee right back, he tracked back and cut back inside. Doesn't seem to have much confidence using his left foot to cross. Always seems to cut back to use his right foot. And he did seem much like McCowan to drift out the game in the second half. So 6.5 for him. 6.5 also for Kyogo. Didn't seem to get himself into the box or be an attacking threat much yesterday evening. Did, however, set up the second goal. Some nice touches down the right side. However, wasn't really involved in the game as much as he has been at Ross County. And when he did swap to be the main striker, he hardly had a chance, which may be all down to good defending by Dundee. For me, it's probably a combination of a bit of fatigue, stopping him making his good runs, and our midfielders and wide players not finding him. And 5.5 for Adam Ida, missed a gilt-edged chance to put us 2-0 up. Didn't seem to be much of an attacking threat, lost the ball a few times, overhit passes, not an aerial threat in either box. And 5.5 for him. For the subs, 5.5 also for Ria Tati. Hardly knew he'd come on. Did make a couple of passes, made a few errors. Didn't seem to really get himself involved with the play. I've given Arnie Engel 6.5. He did at least have a few shots at goal, although they were rather poor. Wasn't very creative yesterday, but he did have the guts and calmness to step up in added time to put that penalty away and give us a point and a 3-3 draw. Given Nicholas Kuhn 6.5, he did show some flashes of good skill down that right-hand side, seemed to be just lacking a wee bit of confidence and pace. However, did cut in nicely to shoot for goal that led to the third goal via the penalty. Alex Valley, wee bit better than Taylor had been in defence, did move into midfield a few times, however, a few overhit passes, inaccurate passes, shot for goal when passing out wide to Palmer or Kuhn would have been far better options, so wasted a very good chance on the edge of the box. And I've given 6.5 for Lewis Palmer. I thought when he did come on, he showed quite a lot of energy, getting up and down the wing, a couple of nice times he beat the fullback, got the ball into the box a couple of times with nice crosses, although nobody took it up, and twice set up Arnie Engels for shots from the edge of the box, both of which Engels put over the bar. So 6.5 for Lewis Palmer. I think a bit more game time, a bit more training time for both Kuhn and Palmer, they would have been more effective. Both had half a training session coming into the match after a few days off for bereavement leave for Lewis Palmer and out for a couple of games injured for Kuhn. So I think they, with a couple of days of training going into the Kilmarnock match, will be much more effective. And I think also for the Kilmarnock match, we'll have Dyson Maida back on the left as the starter, Nicholas Kuhn starting on the right. I think that'll make Celtic much more effective. And I think also the absence of Dyson Maida for the last 3 games, 2-3 games, I think has shown that we actually do rely on a lot on him tracking back to help the fullback, covering in to help in midfield on the left. And I think if we do get Maida back on the left, Kuhn back on the right, I think it gets Celtic much more balanced and also gives us that extra backup defending on the left-hand side, which I think is important. Now, you may well have your own thoughts regarding the game, the performances, the ratings, so do feel free to pop those into the comment section. No real major news in terms of players coming in and out at Celtic. A couple of stories that Rennes in France are looking to sign Kyogo. However, delving deeper into the French football sports sites, it does look like the Rennes manager is keen on Kyogo. However, the sporting director and the rest of the club aren't keen on him, and so I don't see that really as going to happen. Also, I don't see Celtic releasing any of their players until all of the Champions League games are over, unless it's an obvious backup to the backup like Welsh or Home or potentially Navroki, although the with Welsh going off to Belgium, I think Navroki is maybe going to be at Celtic for the rest of the season unless we sign a new centre back in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And again, I don't see any other players leaving the club unless Rodgers gets in a direct replacement for that player, especially when players such as Palma and Yang and Bernardo and so on are all part of the European Champions League squad, and anyone we buy or loan in the next few weeks will be ineligible for the Bern match and the Villa match, and would be eligible until the knockout phase, assuming that we get that far. So I will be doing pretty much daily videos up to the Kilmarnock match at the weekend. I'll be doing a preview of the Kilmarnock match just before the game as well. And so until the next video, goodbye and hail, hail.